Governor's Office of 몽골 Province, Ayutthaya Company, Foundation of Intellectual Development of Gobi, UBS Television present. The landscape and biodiversity of 몽골 Province is a landmark of magnificent history. Legendary stories of this place have been told from the times immemorial. In the 1920s, American scientists discovered that ancient humans live in the Gobi Desert, which is said to have been a limitless ocean millions of years ago. Roy Chapman Andrews, in his book On the Trail of Ancient Man, written on the results of his expeditions to Mongolia, suggested that humanity should have a common ancestor that lived thousands of years ago. Indeed, having discovered remains of ancient people, one can compare skeletons or skulls of an ancient man from Asia and Europe. Studying their lifestyle, household items, stone tools, and other artifacts, one can conclude that the ancient people of Asia and Europe probably had close ties. In other words, the probability of the identity of cultures that originated in the most remote regions of Earth is negligible, from which it can be concluded that the humans have a common ancestor. The question where exactly our ancestors lived remains unanswered, and it is possible that this show will help our viewers to look at this issue from a different point of view. One of the places of origin and residence of ancient man is Painzak, which in Mongolian means rich in Saksaul. It is possible that in his homeland of ancient man many centuries ago, the Saksaul grew, rustled, and the waters of the lake splashed the bottom of which we observe today, which is still filled with water in rainy season. Up to our time, here are found the remains of stone tools processed by ancient people. In the southwest of Bainzak, there are rock carvings of Haftsat left by people from 4,000 to 5,000 years ago and became an important historical and cultural monument. Petroglyphs are one of the most important sources of information about ancient people. Mongolia is rich in petroglyphs and rock inscriptions made with blunt or sharp tools and stones. A feature of Gobi rock inscriptions is that they were not made with onche but were carved on rocks or walls of caves. Petroglyphs on rocks of Haftsat in Bulg'ansom of 몽골 Province serve as a good example. Figures on the rocks of Haftsat are sources of most important information on the history of Mongolia. In essence, those are stone sutras. Although we have many historical books such as The Secret History of Mongols, there are practically no documentary images, and these original drawings left by real people who lived or visited there are priceless monuments. In fact, those are stone sutras of our ancestors. On a relatively small surface, we can see unique images and interesting compositions that depicts the lives of many generations of ancient people, comparable to the famous painting One Day of Mongolia. Bulg'ansom of 몽골 Province is essentially the northern foothills of western peak of the mountain range Korvansakhan, which connected the Gobi with the Hanggai mountain range. Is that right? Yes. There are a lot of petroglyphs, historical monuments and inscriptions reflecting different periods of time, and this could be seen when you ascend to the top, bypass and descent. There are a lot of different rock paintings. Bodhonsom is included in the first tourist zone of tourism. Tourists coming to Bodhonsom can see a number of unique cultural sites, findings in the fields of archaeology and paleontology, telling about the history of the world, all within 25 to 30 kilometers from the center. Petroglyphs on the rocks of Haftsraat were left by ancient people who apparently lived in a valley along the southern slope of Aldert Arts mountain, about 30 kilometers from Bainzak area. Excavations in the region of Bainzak or Lansort confirmed that the stone tools were skillfully produced, for example stone knives with the finest blade, which were used in everyday life and for hunting. Gobi in Mongolia is recognized as the place of living of ancient people. Bainzak, here from 40 to 50,000 years ago and earlier our ancestors lived. Such places as Flaming Cliffs, Tugrigin Shire, southern slope of Artsbogd Mountain, Tsakhurt Valley, Nomgon Valley, Sivre Mountain, Otsung Mount in Baingawa Som, Neuenbogd Mountain, and Tosung Mountains keep historical evidence of ancient people's habitants. For example, Tsakhurt Valley. Here in 1995, the joint Mongolian-Russian-American expedition discovered the largest, not only in Central Asia but also in the world, region containing several 100,000 previously unknown artifacts belonging to different periods from the lower to the late Paleolithic. Rock paintings were left from 4 to 5,000 years ago, and the artifacts of Tsakhurt Valley belong to the Stone Age. That means there is a gap in chronology. The paintings were left not so much by people who lived in the Stone Age, but rather by representatives of later historical periods. The Umungov province, especially the Tsakhurt Valley, is a real stone house of the tools of the Stone Age. Here you can find remains of the stone tools in huge quantities dating back to the period from the early Paleolithic to the Neolithic. But artifacts found in Bainzak near Saing Bainzak are related to the end of the Stone Age, the beginning of the Bronze Age. The Tsakhurt Valley was nicknamed as the forge of stone tools of ancient people. It is extremely intriguing that the remains of the stone tools found in these parts are almost identical to those found in Europe and Japan, which confirms the theory which was developed more than 100 years ago by the prominent American scientist Henry Fairfield Osborn. Researchers found that hundreds of years ago, ancient people wore neck ornaments from ostrich bones. Interestingly, during the excavations along with the processed flint stones, fragments of ostrich eggshell were found. Most likely the eggs belonged to the Asian ostrich, once inhabiting the territories of modern Mongolia and China, which confirms the fact that such eggs were used in the food of ancient people. The egg was twice as large as the current ostrich's egg. It equaled to about 18 chicken eggs, which could not fail to attract the often starving ancient man. Hence, it can be concluded that the wealth of Gobi, now hidden under the sand, was used many thousand years ago. Studies prove that the ancient people lived in the places such as the shores of one of the 5 famous lakes of Gobi, Olanor, as well as the Great Lakes Hollow, which were most rich in water, vegetation and animals, and consequently food. The soil on these hills became black and crumbly like ash, as if humans were burning fire here for many years. Here, many tools were found which were made of fragments of flint. I heard they are called remnants of the Gobi stone tools. They say that both in Japan and Europe they find the same stone tools. Involuntarily, the thought arises, so maybe this is the homeland of ancient people. Studies have shown that in these places ancient people lived continuously for at least 20,000 years. They choose places close to water sources, built dwellings from the branches, hunted and used the skins of animals for clothes. He lived the giant dinosaurs so realistically shown in the adventure films of the West. Their bones and eggs were used by ancient people for ornaments. So we uncovered a small layer of the Gobi wealth, which goes deep into history for many thousands and millions of years. If the age of the rock paintings is about from 4,000 to 5,000 years, then the age of these stone tools, of course, is much older. For example, these fragments. Flint is considered as one of the hard stones, and therefore, at that time, there was probably sort of a technology for processing such stones. Only with a skilled heat, such fragments with sharp edges can be made. The tools with such sharp edges are scientifically called biface. One end could be attached to a stick, and the tool was obtained for hunting small fish and animals. In the history of Mongolian science, this place is called the Forge of Stone Tools in the Tsahyurt Valley. This place has special significance for the development of Gobi tourism. It would be wonderful to have a map of these times. Traces of Neanderthals are found in Africa, Palestine. With maps of those times, it is easy to see how they migrated there from Asia. Although, at the moment, this is just a guess, there are serious reasons to think that this theory will find its confirmation in the near future. If it is confirmed that the ancient people originated from Asia, then Central Asia will become the main historical homeland of the ancient man. The amazing assumption of the Professor Henry Fairfield Osborn that most of the mammals originated from Asia is increasingly being confirmed during the years of our work in Mongolia. On the trail of ancient man. The Great Gobi, which represented Mongolia to the world for the first time with an exceptionally rich history, reveals and will keep revealing to us more and more of its untold treasures.